Yeah, assalamu alaikum everyone, and hopefully everyone is enjoying their time. So today we are in a week two, and today we will be actually discussing about the research design and what are the r- ways of the research design or the type of the research design are available where the research gap can help us. And I will be actually highlighting the research gaps that are available from the publication that we are reading every day. So I again welcome all to join us today. So I actually going to share my screen. So all these recording are available for our use again. So hopefully everyone able to see my screen. So today we will be discussing about designing a research with the research gap. So the learning outcome for the today that we will be actually able to understand the research, what are the characteristics of the good research. Then we understand the research gap and the types of the research gap and what are the sources from where we can actually identify and take the research gap based on which we can design our study and studies that are based on the research gap are having more chances to go into the good journal because we are fulfilling a research gap that's documented in the literature. So, characteristics of the good research that we need to keep in mind when we are designing a research. Because the research design is the first and the foremost stage which help us to actually design a good, valid, and verifiable research that help us to make a mark in academia or in the scholarly. So, first of all, characteristics of a good research that based on a research idea that is actually have a purpose. So, whenever we are designing a research, so good research that it have a purpose, and that purpose must be documented in the introduction section of the article, or maybe in the mind of a researcher that why is research is conducted or what is the purpose of the research. Then the context. So certainly when we are doing a research, it must have a context. Context means geographical, empirical, or in literature. So it have a context that we need to document and narrate so that people can understand that what is the context of the research. So purpose and the context are the two characteristics that a good research must carry. Precision. So when we are actually doing our research or designing a research, so we must be precise in a way that we must describe that what is already done, what we already know, and what is the case, a business case. Some normally I actually called it a business case. Make or design a business case for your research, where we document that this is the problem, what is already known, how much that affect maybe the people or the business, and what will be the contribution if we able to resolve the issue. So it means precisely describe the research agenda. So in the precision, we must actually use the empirics, the number that can we identify from the literature or maybe from the external document that help us to create a precise situation or problem area that we are going to resolve. Without it, so certainly we are unaware that what is the problem, what is the gravity of the problem, and what are the surrounding, and how we are going to implement our precisely answer our question. The next thing that again we need to claim the knowledge enhancement. So our good research always claim and establish that how this research that we are conducting are going to conduct is able to enhance the existing knowledge and maybe sometimes the practice as well. So enhancement of the knowledge is the one of the greatest attribute of the good research. So we must establish, claim, and document the knowledge enhancement that we are going to achieve or we are going to make in our research. Another attribute of a good research is testability. That whatever we are doing, a qualitative, quantitative, what are the divide we are making, or the method we are utilizing, the information as well as the method we are using, they must be testable. Testable so that it can be reproduced and can be verified by the other people as well. So testability is qualitative or quantitative, whatever the method we are using, the method must be testable. Related to that, replicability, that whatever information or the method we are using, they must be replicable. It means if we conduct our research, so other people can do the same kind of the research or using the method we are applying. So it means replicability is only be available if we fully disclose all the information that we are actually implementing into this. It means the research we are conducting it based on the information or the method that are already available, and we need to fully disclose all the method or the instrument of the information and methodology we are adopting so that the people can replicate. So it means a good research is testable by its method and the result as well as replicable, that the other people can conduct the same kind of research in their own circumstances or the context. It means it have a higher replicability. So normally when we are reviewing the article, so if replicability is missing, so we give no for the publication or maybe ask for a major relevancy or relevance of the research. So research always conducted in a situation or environment where the question is there and we are providing an answer. And without having a relevancy, it means we are doing or we are suggesting something that have no purpose. So relevance, mostly we connect with the research or the literature, that how that question, the problem, and then the answer we are providing is relevant and how it may enhance to the knowledge as well as the relevancy in terms of the testability. Another attribute that is quite related to the testability or applicability, accuracy and confidence. That whatever the method, the result, and the implications we are reporting, they must be accurate. They must reflect the accuracy in a way that the community of the scholar is establish the norms to uh, conduct and then report the result and analysis, the conclusion. And the confidence that it means that we must be doing the things in valid manner that create a confidence. We must not be shy in a way to describe the result. Maybe you can say the good or bad result. The result or result we just actually need to describe and with the more accurate manner so that the question may not be asked something is missing, more information is required, the researcher are claiming something that may not be right. So fully disclosure are must be provided in terms of accuracy and the confidence which in by which the document is written. So fairness, it means the more thing that we need to add, that is the off side or negative side of the research. That there are, when we are designing research, so there are many things we can't able to, that is limitations. So we must fairly document the limitation of the research, as well as we need to be careful that what information we utilized and what the conclusion we are making, they may be having some offset. So the fairness in reporting the result must be. Another important issue that generalizability. So mostly the research are conducted in a way that we are proposing the generalizability of the research. So we need to keep in mind the generalizability of the research are always limited because we are collecting data maybe quantitatively, qualitatively from a certain population, a small segment of the population with these very specific characteristics. So it means the generalizability of the study is our research is always limited. And we must be able to have an understanding how to document the limitation of the method or the generalization that we are proposing. So it means the generalizability issue must be kept in mind and documented in a way that we can describe that this is a scholarly document, have a limited generalization, and what kind of limitations are there in the generalizability are the meaning to be expected on the all the population or maybe all the segment of the population. Another but very important, porous money. So porous money is related to the kind of the ease or the comfort by which the research is done. For my understanding, what I understand porous money is actually have a moderate kind of complexity. So research is always able to help to deliver an answer to a complex question, but the complexity must be at a moderate level. It must not be at that level that the complexity become that complex, unable to answer it. So the complexity must be at a moderate level that it can enable us to answer our research question in a moderate with a moderate complexity, but in an appropriate methodology so that we can able to answer or contribute to the literature. So these are attribute of a good research that we need to inculcate in our writing and then actually incorporate in our research writing, that research have a purpose, it have a context, precisely document the facts and then the method whatever we are utilizing, proposing the knowledge enhancement or the contributions that we are expecting and making to the community or to the scholar community, to the knowledge, and then testable, replicable, and relevancy must be created. Our result and the effort by which we are actually conducting the research must be accurate, and we confidently predict and report the result. Fairness must be there, that the offside of the research must be kept in mind while we are designing the research. Then another important issue is generalizability, that all the research are conducted in a way that we understand the population from the sample. But it always have a limited generalizability. So what are the expectation of the generalizability and how we can actually make some contribution on the generalizability and to make a moderate effort to enhance the knowledge. So porous meaning that the research must be conducted in a complex answer must be provided, but the complexity must be at a moderate level, which is quite able to be solved. Not at that level where complexity create become that complex that no answer is possible. So these are some of the attribute of the characteristics of the good research that we need to keep in mind when we are designing our research. Another issue that related to that as well, that is designing a research with the research gap. So what are the research gap in general? Then actually we discuss the type of the research gap. So it is actually a research problem. It provides the research agenda that documented in a problem statement. Valid justification of the research can be documented by the research gap. Another attribute of a research gap that it is urgent. Any issue or any problem that already gone, already resolved, it may not be considered as a research gap. It means some issue already gone, it may not be important right now. So urgency is there. Maybe if it is having a late urgency, so it may be post. So normally when we are doing our research, so we make a case that the problem is urgent and it must be resolved now. Relevancy, the context in which we are designing a research, it must be relevant. Like when say the right now the climate issues. So the climate issues are very much relevant and urgent, because if we are not able to do right now, so the things maybe in future are more harmful, and maybe the action required are more uh, bigger, or the money required is quite enormous in the future. So relevancy and urgency are the two important aspects of a research gap. Then the practicality. There are many issues or that there are many problems that may not be practical in one situation or in one context. But if we think they are practical, so we need to actually make a case for them how they are practical to resolve right now. So these kind of the issues must be there in the research gap. So our research gap help us to design a research problem and the research agenda, problem statement, and validation of the research. Then the urgency, relevancy, practical, and justified information must be utilized to justify the research gap. So then we talk about the type of the research gap. So normally we have seven kind of the research gap that are available in the literature, and normally we can find from the uh, reading or the article or the literature that these are the some of the gaps available for any specific topic on which we can actually build our research. Evidence gap, contradictory evidence gap. So as a researcher, we can understand there are many literature available where some are positive, some are negative, or contradictory evidence are available in the literature. It means it prompts us to move further and design some study to actually bridge the contradictory gap. Maybe it's positive or negative, so whatever it is, so it means there is quite a complexity and multiple kind of evidence are available, so we must actually design some study or research based on the contradictory evidence available. Another gap that is available, knowledge gap, sometimes called as knowledge void gap. So there are maybe possible new area where no knowledge is available or research findings are not available. So maybe we are interested to move further to understand the knowledge gap and actually fill the gap, knowledge gap. Like maybe a new research area maybe emerge, like you can say right now we know about the metaverse. So what are the effect of metaverse on knowledge or the for educational institutions? So these kind of novel activities or novel, you can say, the practices can be utilized as a knowledge gap. So any kind of a new project or the new technology that's coming forward. So these are some of the knowledge gap area where we can actually build our study, our research. So build the knowledge gap, cover the knowledge gap. Another thing that we can actually work on that is based on the practical knowledge gap. So sometimes there is actually a gap available as the practice. So the professional people, what they are doing, so maybe they are not following or they are not doing accordingly what is documented in research. So it means the practice knowledge gap is there, sometimes called as action knowledge conflict gap. So it means the practitioner are doing something else, but the available knowledge that we have documented in the literature is something different. Like I have one experience in that practice gap. Like you can say, many people say that there are best way for the interview to select the people. So there are many methodology available for the interview or the selection, but still there are many mistakes that can occur. It means the documented literature or the knowledge is there to practice these kind of the selection tools, but still there are problems. So it means the practical or the professional people are doing something different than what we scholar are actually documenting. Again, keep in mind as a researcher, we need to understand the practitioner in mostly because in the business area, in enterprise research. So the practitioner are always ahead of the people who are documenting it, because we are documenting what the practices are. So sometimes the practices are documented later on stage than the practitioner are making the action. So it means there is always a gap. So in the research, we must actually try to understand the professional behavior and the available document or the literature that have a gap, and we are not covered. So we are only covering to document the new insight from the practitioner. So that is our third research gap, practical knowledge gap. Another kind of gap that is available, methodological gap. So it means mostly some studies are done in general term quantitatively. So it means there is a gap to do the research qualitatively. If some area, some research are done more qualitatively, it means there is a possibility of to document the research finding by the quantitative. Maybe there is actually some research that require holistic kind of exploration. So it means the more qualitative study may be required. And sometimes there are actually grounded theory kind of the methodology are utilized. So it means no knowledge is available about any knowledge area or the practice. So it means we need to explore the area as a new parallel land of the knowledge. So it means a new method can be utilized. So methodological gap is more about the design of study with the research method and the research design. So it means there are some variants are available with by the use of a research method, and we are actually understanding the research method with a novel technique research. So that is the fourth kind of the methodological gap. So literature document there is uh, certain kind of research method are utilized in the area. So it means we can actually extend the knowledge by adopting a new method of the research. Another gap that is available called as empirical gap, evaluation wide. So researcher finding or proposition need to be evaluated or empirically verified. So there are actually certain paper you may come across in propositional paper. So the propositional paper are there from the literature which are actually asking to extend the knowledge area for future or future research questions. So these are empirical gap. It means the researcher or the top researcher in a certain field or area, they are suggesting to move further for the exploration of the topic, and they are actually proposing the relationship or the association among the variables that are under study in the knowledge area. So these are empirical gap. It means the top researcher from a certain community. So they are asking us to move further for the proposition they are making to evaluate and verify the empirical evidence for the certain kind of association they are proposing. Another kind of the research gap that is theoretical gap, theory application wide gap. So theories are there who are actually utilized mostly to explain the phenomena under hand or under research. But sometimes only few research theories are applied. Like you can say a very broader theory, that is theory of planned behavior, is quite used for the human psychology. Many people are interested to study the adoption of a technology or maybe new technology, e-wallet or maybe the metaverse or the e-health. So maybe theory of planned behavior is not enough. So they actually come further for a new theory, that is adoption of technology. So TAM, technology adoption model, or maybe the TAM2, or maybe the unified theory of technology adoption and use, or maybe they are extending with the belief and norm. So it means there is more possibility to utilize the theory to actually extend its use to into the new area. So there are two type of gap maybe. So it means the theory required to be built. Another, so we can extend the theory application from one area to another area. So that is theoretical gap. So theory application wide gap. It means the theory can be applied in another area, so that can be possibly done by our researcher. Another last type of the gap, but again considered to be a moderate implication, that is population gap. That one study that done in one state in a one country may be adopted to another country or another population. So that is actually population gap. But I can actually suggest and I can understand. So it can be actually from the different aspect as well. Like you can say some people who are studying the market side or supply side of a technology or the adoption, so they can actually understand the consumer side of the adoption. So it means I give you one example, like when we are studying the e-wallet adoption among the consumer. So why not to study the e-wallet adoption from the seller as well? Why not to study the e-adoption, e-wallet actually, the technology, how it's evolving by the e-wallet operator. So it means every population have one aspect, so it can be actually implemented in the other population, so we can claim a research gap to be fulfilled. So these are the seven kind of the research gap. So I actually always suggest, and I myself actually making my research based on these kind of the research gap, and by the grace of Allah, so I have nearly 70 plus publication where 40 plus are in the web of science, and I am among the top 10 scholar in the web of science by the web of science track. So it means if you design a research on the research gap, a valid research gap, So there are more probability that our research go into the good opening or good journal. Okay, another issue from where to find these research gaps. So standard way of research opportunities or research gap finding can be achieved by the call of paper. If we are if we are in a writing business as a scholar we are, so we are always looking for the call of the paper. If we look into the call of paper, so they already give us the area, topic area to write, and the research problem for which they are looking for a writing. So if you ever go for a call of paper advertisement, so it already tell us what to do, what literature we need to read, and what the problem they are looking for. So it means it's quite easy. But the only problem is call of paper is for 6 months or 1 year. So it means it will have less time. But if we are actually working in one area where we have some understanding, so the call of the paper is the finest idea to actually utilize and build our paper that actually fulfilling a research gap, and the scholar, the top scholar in a community are looking for to accept it. Another thing that is systematic literature review paper, because right now systematic literature review paper are coming quite thick and fast. So we can actually find any systematic literature that done maybe in 2020, 21, 22, 23. So these are the paper we utilize. So there are actually the last section of this meta-analysis or the systematic literature review paper where they are suggesting the future research avenues. So it means it helps us to design our research, next research based on the systematic literature. And if you utilize the systematic literature review, so most of the literature we can take from the that paper. Another opening or opportunity that is meta-analysis. So meta-analysis is actually a grand regression that is run on the quantitative data from the systematic literature review to give us the understanding how the variables are there who are implementing, influencing the outcome. And the meta-analysis always, you can say, closed with a future research opportunity. Another opening is propositional paper that highlight the future research. So propositional paper are there. If you go into the any topic or any research area, so you find the people, top people, they are writing these kind of the propositional paper, how to actually enhance the boundaries of the knowledge in a certain topic. So they also suggest the future research. So if you build your research based on these propositional paper and you document and cite that your research is based on that propositional paper or the future research opportunities that are highlighted and guided by these people, so the probability that you have a good paper and then you make a good paper later on. Journal paper, every paper that we read are from the good opening. So they always close with the limitation and the future research opportunities. So that is also highlighting, every journal paper is highlighting the research. So these are the 5 different easy to find research gap that is called a paper, systematic literature review, meta-analysis, propositional paper, and the journal research articles. Another way of doing or finding the research gap, that is yourself doing the systematic literature. Mostly we suggest people who are doing the PhD, so they must go for a systematic literature review. And if they did a systematic literature review, so at least they have 5, 10, 20 maybe research gap, and that actually help them in the future research journey after the PhD, post PhD. So it means they have the gap for the next 10, 15, 20. So systematic analysis is required at least 400 plus papers to read, then actually uh, do something about their analysis, the matching or mismatched literature, then identify the gaps. Another thing we personally can do meta-analysis. So meta-analysis again help us to understand what is done, how the people are doing the research quantitatively, what is already known, and what are the gaps that we can fill up. The content analysis, again, the literature that is available to us. So if we do the content analysis, so we can segment and can uh, make the ground for the research gap. Another thing, whenever we are doing the research literature reading, a journal reading maybe, so we always come up some of the finding or some of the gap that may enable us to or look for a research gap. So these are some of the research gap types and then the research gap resources based on which we can actually make a research gap as a research question, then actually research issue to resolve and then design the study. So before closing, so I'm giving you some of the example of the call of the paper, the research article. That this paper is actually literature review of the technology adoption model. So if we read these kind of the paper, it may be old. Right now it is 2017. So if we have the new paper like this one, so we are able to understand the research gap that are quite valid and we can actually design some research. Bibliometric analysis paper for 25 years from the Journal of Business to Business Market. So these kind of review in a certain topic area, so that help us to understand that what are the knowledge that is already documented, what are the gaps that we need to consider, and what are the future area that we need to cover. And that is actually called for the from the top scholar in the topic area. Uh, Methodologically, QCA, qualitative composite analysis, comparative analysis is actually a different kind of method. And this kind of method is quite different from the normal quantitative regression based, or you can say mean based or frequent based analysis technique. And it actually gives us that how the variable are actually mixing up with each other so that they can make the sense or make the outcome possible. So FSQCA or QCA kind of the model or methodologies are a new kind of breed of the research method that enable to expose and explore the topic in more in depth, where actually regression based analysis is not given any answer. So another kind of a review paper, driver for the adoption of eco innovation. So these kind of paper actually help us to take all the look on the available literature and then actually the gap that the scholars are communicating to work on. Another type is a meta-analysis, why farmer adopt best management practices in the United States, meta-analysis of the adoption literature. So meta-analysis is regression-based analysis, where actually again from the literature review or systematic literature review, only the quantitative paper are utilized to conduct the meta-analysis, and it actually forecasts what is the gap to fill in future. Another kind of paper, the re-examining the unified theory of the acceptance and use of technology towards a revised theoretical model. So these kind of model actually give us a food of thought so that what need to be done and what are the future avenues that can be conducted in a certain area. So that is only the example. I am just suggesting from my area or my knowledge. Again, every knowledge area have these kind of paper available. So these type of paper actually give us understanding towards the research gap that require attention of the scholar to fulfill. So that's all from my side today. Hopefully, we people able to understand the designing of the research with the research gap. If we read at least one paper 1 week, I'm actually reading one paper 1 day. But if we are reading paper every day for reviewing or for our own reading, so we always find the research gap quite handily, and we can develop our research based on the research gap to claim a valid contribution to research, and then actually claim that our method and our effort, whatever we are putting, is enhancing the knowledge and fulfilling the gap. And actually, when we are closing, so we must close with the future research gap, predicting to the future enhancement. So that's all for today. If you have any questions, so please feel free to ask anything. So these slides are the presentation will be available for your for you. So I think so. There is no question for me today. So hopefully you people have something good you can learn today or can discuss. get something out of it. And hopefully, if you have possibly question related to any of the topics the last first week and then 2 days, that is the designing a research with the research gap. So please feel free to ask any question, and we are also arranging one physical face-to-face meeting with the groups. Hopefully, it helps. So that's all from my side. So take care. Assalamu alaikum and have a good day ahead of you.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you, Doktor.
Thank you. Welcome.